recording. And it is a beautiful day. God is good. It's another God day. And there's some questions that we're going to keep bringing up, and we want to inspire some questions that come from you to have some interaction, because we're dealing with real world stuff. And the one question that we have come up quite often is, well, all right, so I'm a Christian, but why do I still struggle with sin? And that's a pretty prevalent topic, you know. It's like, wait a minute, I remember myself when I was in Marine Corps and went to the altar, did the altar call and accepted Jesus. I thought, okay, great. But then the week went by, and I still was doing things that I felt were, according to what I knew, was right and wrong, bad and sinful. And I'm like, well, I thought this would be different. And I actually felt like I was beating myself up more. And I'd come back to church and cry again because what I was doing the week prior, in my opinion at that time, was sinning. And like, something's wrong with me. I must not have got it right or something, because I keep doing the stuff that I thought I wouldn't be doing anymore. So how and where do we go from that? And do we even bring up, before we fired this up, I mean, this is life. This is what we're getting ready to fire this conversation up. My phone rang, a highly successful friend, and he said, hey, do you have some time? And he shared some very important details about his relationship with his wife and what his wife was doing and with the kids and alcoholism and all this. And, you know, that's life, ladies and gentlemen. And so that's what we're here for. We're dealing about life issues. And eventually, we hopefully look forward to having conversations with you to give you a new perspective. What do you think?
Yeah, that just kind of hit. So it's kind of like, whew, you feel for people, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got stuff going on. Mm-hmm. And we went through some stuff, right?
And you probably have some stuff, or had some, or have some.
Yeah. Tom and I both went through a divorce.
Yep.
And that was tough. You know, it's so interesting to me because I want people to understand, when people go through divorces, I don't know what. I mean, most of the time it's because you got to understand they've been through years
of interesting situations.
They've been through years of stuff before they get to divorce.
This is it, yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's been this pain.
Yeah. The friends on the outside are like, man, look at the torture that this person's going through. I see it. Why doesn't he see it or she see it?
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah, sometimes you can get that, but you have to understand, I'm sure there's people out there, they get in a situation, they get divorced and boom, away they go. But I'm just saying, for most people that I've been around, and especially Christians who've got this, you know, they attach, God's not going to be pleased with me, you know. They've got this legalistic belief system about divorce, and I guess we probably ought to talk about that. But
so better suck it up.
You know, yeah. Well, that wouldn't be right, you know.
Yeah.
But most people that have been through divorce, prior to them having a divorce, they've been through this
ringer.
pain.
The ringer.
They've been through the ringer, man.
Yep. Continually. And
oh my God.
At least in my perspective, well, I can't believe that's happening. And give another chance, and another chance, and another chance.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, oh, let's go get counseling. Well, let's go see a therapist. Let's.
Yep.
So, I mean, with most people, that's like the last thing in the world they want to do. I mean, you didn't grow up and go, boy, I sure hope I don't get through this life without being able to experience a good divorce.
Wasn't on the bucket list yet.
You don't normally put that on the bucket list,
that can
right?
torture me and torment me, and then we can get a divorce, and yeah, that's not the plan.
You get married, you're thinking,
love and
this is
forever,
it, man.
right,
This is going to be great. This is everlasting.
The fairy
all
tale.
that
Yeah, the fairy tale. Yep.
And then, you know,
Life happens.
Life happens, and people grow up, and you know. But and then they finally get a divorce, and then here comes the judgment. You know, well, you see, the problem is you just didn't do it right.
Yeah.
You didn't do the marriage thing right. If you had done the marriage thing the way God intended, you know, everything would have been right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, holy mackerel.
what do they say in French? C'est la vie. So that's life, right? That's life. So you watching this have had stuff, and the rub of this place that we're in. There's going to continually be stuff that's going to push us, that's going to mold us, that's going to put pressure on us, because it's not that God is there to torment and torture us, but God thinks differently than we think.
Yeah. Well, we think what's going on here is we believe that these things that take place out here are in this free will realm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now we'll say Christ in us. We like to say that. It sounds so spiritual. Well, God's in control. Oh man, that sounds so spiritual.
Right? Say that. That's God's in control.
Why?
But why did he do this? He must have been not paying attention to this, because that's not.
But at the end of the day, the truth is we just think God does certain things.
Right.
Okay.
Good stuff God does.
Yeah.
Bad stuff, God doesn't part of that. That's the bad guy.
Yeah.
That's the bad one.
So we think we're operating in this free will realm. So all these scenarios and these things that take place, we start connecting everything to ourselves, right? And here comes the guilt.
The good and bad, the right and wrong.
And then the right and wrong, and then behavior, and then we connect it to this thing we call sin, and away we go. It's just a cycle, man. We're in the will of God, we're out of the will of God, and oh my gosh.
In the circle of trust, out of the circle of trust. Right.
Well, I got news for you. God will take you and put you in a scenario you have no control of that other person you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is. It can be at work. It can be in an office situation. You know what? What do you do with this?
I found God likes plot twists. Oh, let me throw this into Tom's little, adventure. Let's see how he likes this plot twist.
Yeah.
Never saw it coming. Those are the fun ones.
Yeah. Well, that guy, he doesn't believe in divorce. Well, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's watch this.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I didn't, because I grew up around 4 divorces and 6 marriages. And I made a decision at a young age, in my 8, 9, 10 years old. So when I get old, I'm never going to get divorced. No matter what.
Right.
And that was a decision I made at that young age. And there I was, in that marriage where I still was, you know what? Okay, it is what it is. I'll suck it up, and I'm going to not get divorced because at that young age. And then I threw in the reason for my kids. Until there was a shift that said, wow. And this went through counseling and some things like this. Like, whoa, if I don't rectify this, my kids are going to grow up thinking this is what love is. And they're going to be in a similar situation. I said, I need to change. I had to reframe my thinking of, I'm not going to get divorced for my kids to, I must get divorced for my kids so they can see that what a real loving environment is. I don't want them to grow up and see that it has to be a painful, drudgery experience. And that was a mental shift, and took action on that. And one of the best decisions for my kids that I ever made, and for myself as well. Funny how that hindsight.
Buddy, I was married for 25 years, so it was tough.
Yep.
And a lot of that 25 years was me believing that divorce was sin.
Yep.
Thou shalt not, that ought not to be.
Yep.
See? So that was a bad one. That was a bad one. So, what did we do? Well, we made a law out of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
We said, well, you can't put that asunder. Okay, well, when you go and look at that in the scriptures, where's he talking about that? Well, he's talking about that in the Gospels. Okay, I don't know when in the world, it's 2019, man. I don't know when in the world we're going to get the Gospels put into context. We're just not going to do it. teacher out there is just not going to put the Gospels into context. But man, it's not complicated. Who's he talking to? Well, he's talking to Jewish people. Who were they? Well, they're called the Pharisees. What did they believe in? Well, the law. Well, what were they talking about? Well, one of the topics was divorce.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they talked about adultery and making promises to God and all these things. Well, who was he talking to? I mean, here it is, 2019. You talk to people out there. And they think the Gospels applies to them. Well, see, I was reading in Matthew and, I was reading in Luke the other day and he's telling us, that we need to do this and we need to do that and this is how we ought to live and holy crap. Are you Jewish? Are you a Pharisee? And are you under the old covenant?
That's the key. Now, for people watching, I could feel some inner training. It's like, whoa. But that's Jesus telling us how to be. But if you haven't watched any of our older videos, what is the Bible? Picture a Bible being here. What is the Bible? The Bible is a representation of the old covenant. Jesus was there speaking to the Jewish, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the people under the law of the old covenant. And he came to fulfill the old covenant and create the new covenant. Right, so there's a distinction.
He was talking.
So a time out when your heart's like, whoa, wait, this guy's telling me Jesus wasn't talking to me. Jesus fulfilled. He fulfilled.
He was talking to people that were under the law,
which he then fulfilled on the cross and brought sin to the cross with him.
Right. So you're not under the law. You're not under the old covenant. So what I'm saying is, Christ came and he fulfilled all those things that they were talking to the Pharisees about in the Gospels. That we keep attaching to ourselves.
What we need to attach to ourselves is what you just said about the new covenant. Christ fulfilled all that.
Yeah. And
made you, what did you say at the end of your new upcoming book? Made you whole, righteous. What is God? How does God see you?
He reconciled you. He justified you. He sanctified you. He made you holy, and he perfected.
That's what you need to attach yourself to. That's what.
So when we're talking about the Gospels, we should be talking about that, and in an understanding that he was talking to people that were under the old covenant about these things called divorce and making promises to God, and about Charlie running off with the neighbor. Okay? So we're not under that law. There's no judgment about those things that we keep talking about and keep connecting to ourselves. Mm-hmm. So, one of these days, we're going to start putting that into context. But anyway, so I went through 25 years in that belief system, believing that, he's going to be disappointed in me and God's not going to be happy with me and all this kind of stuff. And so, but, as much as I wanted that thing to be right, he brought it to an end. And so, there's people out there that went through the same, they're going through the same darn thing I went through and the same darn thing you went through. And they have all these concerns and all these worries about God and, oh my gosh.
What are other people going to think? What's God going to think? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And listen, that's what grace is.
Explain grace. What is grace? People say grace, but then they refer back to the Bible, which is, a great history book that shows amazing lessons, but it's the old covenant. Grace with the new covenant. What's grace look like in the new covenant?
Great grace. People believe in grace up until something happens.
Mm-hmm. Not that.
And then
everything but that.
Yeah. Kind of.
Yeah.
Right.
You cross the line.
Right.
Yeah,
That's big.
That's a big one. And it's different for everybody. Everybody has their own, grace covers this, but not that.
Yeah. So we
How
get
far
all
does that
this.
go? How far does that go, Dan? Murder, how far does that go? All these tragedies and travesties, grace covers. It's not all-inclusive.
Holy crap, I could talk about this for 3 days.
Yeah.
So, all this stuff starts at the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The serpent was sitting there talking to man, and man said, what's man want to do? He wants to be good. Okay? He wants to be good. What does the serpent say? Well, if you eat of that tree that God made delightful to your eyes, if you eat of that tree, you can be as God, know right from wrong. Okay? It was the first self-improvement program. Okay?
But them not even knowing right and wrong at that point,
Yeah.
you can't judge them first because they don't know any different.
They don't have
know
the
right and
knowledge
wrong.
of right and wrong.
Oh,
Okay.
and it's appealing to my eyes.
So we ate from the tree. What happened? Well, we
We now do right.
now know what right and wrong is. So what do we operate in? We operate in a belief system of this is right and that's wrong. So what happens? Well, we pick up the Bible. What do? We read the Bible through our knowledge of right and wrong. So when we go to the church building and the teacher gets up and starts talking, what happens? Well, every interpretation is about behavior.
Do this, don't do this.
So this is right and that's wrong.
And if you do this, the right stuff, you go to heaven. If you do any of the wrong stuff, you go to the bad place.
So what happens? Well, we pick up the Bible, right? Well, let's now turn to Matthew, and here we are in the Gospels talking about divorce.
Clearly not acceptable to God.
Or one of those topics in there. And all Christ was doing was talking to the Pharisees, and the guy was making up laws.
And they hit him on that. Are you
He said,
allowed to heal people on the Sabbath day?
yeah, well, I'll tell you what I think. I think if you even look at a woman, if you ever think about it, that's a sin.
That was a big
So
one,
he
right?
was just upping the game on them. That's all he was doing. He was upping the game on them. At the end of the time, context, what does he say? Well, you got to be perfect. How was that?
Which goes in, you think you can, but you can't.
Right.
I can for you. Right.
Right. So listen, he wasn't talking to me and you. Why? Because we showed up after the cross. And Christ fulfilled that law that they were under that Christ was talking about. And what was happening is they were saying, well, we can do it. And God was saying, no, you can't. So why in the world are we still saying that? Why are we still believing that? So we're free of that. Listen, we died to sin. When we went to the cross, man died. And this is hard. When I say something like this is just too much. But everything that man knew in his knowledge of right and wrong, good versus evil beliefs, everything that he knew died on the cross. All of it. Everything died. And so that's why it says everything's supposed to pass away. Behold, all things are supposed to be new. What? All of it. Well, we just don't teach it that way. Okay? But that was the fullness of the cross. Everything died. It says that man died, was buried, resurrected as a new creature in Christ Jesus. Well, what happened? Well, man died.
Written onto our heart.
Yeah. And so that's when the new covenant came in, right? And now what does he say? I've written my word on the hearts of my people.
And think about this from a program. Today, now we live in computer age and programs. Basically, the program got rewritten at that cross, and that erased the old covenant and planted the new covenant on your heart, which, when we speak to God, that's where that direct communication comes, and we have those intuition moments where we feel like, I feel like doing this, but then the fear creeps in, or the belief systems of right and wrong, but we have that intuition of, I want to do or say that. Well, that's God planting, that intuition in you, and it's up to us to follow that guidance system. We have our own GPS right here. And if we have the courage to follow God's guidance, we disconnect the brain of trying to talk us in and out of stuff, and just, this is what my heart feels the right thing to do, and that's God working through us. And not worried about what to say. And I read that years ago in the Bible, man, how do people not worry about what to say? How do people, you'll know what to say when the moment comes.
I read so much.
I'm like, wow, I don't know
For years, I read scripture and I was convinced. I mean, the teacher told me that's what it means. Holy crap. Now, isn't that something? You read that stuff now and you go, whoa.
I get it. It was fulfilled. It's
all
fulfilled.
God.
You see it through new lenses.
Reading it through the new covenant, completely different message.
I step on stage in front of thousands of people around the world, not even knowing what I'm going to say. I have an idea of what they're there for, and I allow, in essence, God to speak through me, and that leads to hour-long lines of hugs and pictures and kisses and crying and all this. For me, and at the end, when people come up, I'm excited to hear what you have to say. I'm like, me too. Me too. Don't know. And similar to us, there's no notes, there's no rehearsal on this. We pick a topic, and we go wherever we feel called, and we hope this is helpful for you. It's fun and exciting for us, and it's what God has put on our heart to do. And God's put on your heart to watch this, and whatever that epiphany is, you have to trust that you're going to see and hear what's yours to see and hear.
Yeah, really what's happening is man still believing.
Trying to be God in the God relationship.
Well, absolutely, but man is still feeding off the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and guess what? He's still believing in the written word.
Yep.
He's believing in the written word.
It says right here.
The living word.
It says right here.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Written word versus the
So that's what I tell people. Listen, the difference is you believe in the written word. I believe in the living word.
And there is a couple references in the old. The old covenant, aka the Bible, of what's coming in the new covenant and what that is, but it's very brief. And compared to the whole darn big book, it's only a few sentences.
Yeah, it talks about it.
Only a few sentences. Yeah.
I mean, it's in Isaiah and Hebrews, it talks about it. I mean, my gosh, you can read Galatians and Romans and it's all over the freaking place too. So, but we just can't, what happens to you is we keep reading the Bible through our right and wrong, good versus evil belief system. We just can't imagine a world without our knowledge of right and wrong. Matter of fact, it's so much our normal. We think that God would want us to operate in our knowledge of right and wrong. See? And so it's so much a part of us.
And narcissistic of what all the humans are.
I mean that's all connected.
I'll take the God role, God. You take a seat. I'll choose what's right and wrong, because obviously you don't have it down. Because I'm looking out into the world and I don't like that. God wouldn't have their hand. That's not God's work.
I mean, we're always telling God what he can and he can't do. Well, God wouldn't do that. See, we're always saying that. So, listen.
Circling back.
So why do we ask the question?
Yeah.
Last week we talked about why are we asking the question? How can we lose our salvation? This week we're asking the question. If I'm a Christian, why do I struggle with sin? Well, guess what? You struggle with it because you still believe in it. Listen, you died to sin. And I'll tell you, that's why he says, where there is no law, there is no sin. Well, guess what? There's no law. There's nothing out there that is measuring us. Why? Because, Christ fulfilled that belief system. That's why Paul said, I keep doing the good. I want to do the good thing. I keep doing the bad thing. Why? What was going on? Well, the law was measuring his behavior. I'm struggling with this thing. Well, what did he learn? He learned that it's no longer him, but he that lives within us. Well, we just can't believe that. Well, that's why we keep
That intuition.
recycling the same. That's why we struggle with this belief about sin. And my gosh, when I tell people there's no sin, it's catastrophic. I mean, it's catastrophic. But I'll tell you something. I'll never forget this. Tom, I'll never forget this. I know exactly where I was standing. And it came out of my mouth, and I heard it before I knew it. I heard it before I understood it. But I'll never forget it. I know exactly where I was. I was in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And I was at my ex-mother and father-in-law's. And I was in their kitchen. I was standing in their kitchen. And shout out to my ex-mother and father-in-law. I love you.
Stand right
I
there.
shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
I'm going to get emotional.
I know, right? You do love him, and you love your ex as well. I mean, that's at this new stage when you see through the new covenant.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I remember standing in their kitchen. And I just remember saying, there's no more sin. There's no such thing. And it caught me. It was like,
It came out.
and the look on their face, huh?
Goes against everything we've been taught.
Everything we've been taught and everything I knew, right? Well, when you get a hold of the new covenant, all that makes sense. And so if that's not making any sense, then we haven't gotten a hold of the new covenant. Okay, so really what's going on out there is we're mixing law and grace. We're taking old wine and we're pouring it in new wineskins. Okay, so we're saying grace to grace, and then here comes
That
the
can't
law.
be right.
Yeah.
That's what just happened. There's not right.
Well, there's no such thing as wrong.
God's not surprised by anything happening, is the real bottom line. The question you was still to me, do you trust me? From God. All of this is under God's larger perspective, which we can never even grasp. And we put labels on it of good and bad because we're in this environment and have this myopic view. He's got the entire scene. And, and it's Jesus' words of, oh, ye of little faith. I used to think he was saying that meanly, oh, you of little faith. I see him now, I was laughing like, really? This is the day after I just raised the dude from the dead, and you're still a question. You still don't believe me? Really? Like I see, and that's kind of God looking at us like, oh boy, they're claiming they get it, but they're still worried. They're still concerned. They're still caught up in this myopic perspective when I see the whole thing. Trust me. I know the ending. It's good.
So man is operating his right and wrong, good versus evil belief system. And then what is he doing? He's connecting behavior to himself because he believes in his, independent will and independent power. Okay, because he believes he's an independent self. And so he connects behavior to himself. Okay, and so guess what? He's a sinner. And so we're still believing in sin, and we're still believing in this character called the devil. And we still believe he's alive. And so then what do? Well, we believe in this eternal destination. And what's that called? Hell. So here we are, 2019. Nobody's out there teaching the new covenant. So man's still caught up, beating himself up in guilt. What are we doing? Well, we're still asking the question, why am I a Christian and I still struggle with this sin?
Yep.
Okay, well, we're struggling with this sin because we're identifying this thing and we're saying, well, sometimes I have a temper. Sometimes I get angry. Well, what's happening? Well, you're attaching anger to yourself. You're believing in anger. and you're believing that anger, that you're the origin of that anger. So what are we doing? We're coming into agreement with something that isn't ours. We're coming into agreement with something that is dead in us. But we believe it's alive. Why? Well, because we just saw ourselves. Well, the problem is we keep attaching things to us. But it's no longer you, but he that lives within you. It's just God wanting to act out this thing in your life. Why? To get your attention about something. We need to be in tune. Not going into outer darkness. And now I've got a sin problem. It's called anger. You see. And so now what do? Well, we're off here, all caught up in something, you know. We're out there trying to work on our flesh, and we're trying to discipline our flesh not to be angry. Well, why don't we just go to God and say, Father, I don't know what's going on with this, but I want to know what you want me to know. But this anger thing, you know, be great if you took care of this.
Yep.
So thank you. So there's nothing going on out there without God doing it. And that's the problem.
You mentioned a word when we got that phone call, discernment, right? And I go back to my heart, like, it's kind of like working out. You get stronger and stronger as you get more trust in God. In that, you know, imagine God asking you, do you trust me? And I chatted with another friend who called me with an issue, and I reminded him, like, hey, you ever had any spots in your life that were extremely difficult, like you didn't even think you were going to make it out? How'd that work out? Yeah, somehow, some way, I got out of it. Like, yeah, imagine that. You know, and how many times does God have to remind us? Look, how about here and here? There's proof every step of the journey that we've been on, every day and year we've been alive. And God's, like Jesus, oh ye of little faith, asking, do you believe? You know, do you believe me? Do you trust me? Trust me. And in that trust comes discernment. So it's a split. Like, we call it a decision, and the way that I see it is, in every moment we do have, there's a multiverse. Like, think of this as a video game. God the creator. Oh, I can say this, or I can say this, or I can not say this, or, you know, left, right, or straight, right? And we come to those crossroads, and we can use the discernment. There's no wrong choice. God is not surprised. Oh, boy, I didn't see that coming. Whoa, I was expecting Dan to turn left, and he turned right. Man, there's no wrong choice, but you can use your discernment. And God, you know, when you connect with God and have a conversation with God, it's not a matter of, oh, should I turn left? Should I turn right? Should I go? You quickly work that muscle to follow the intuition written on your heart, the living word. And you don't suppress it, you don't fight it, and you don't say, oh man, I should have turned. Well, with new information, guess what? You can turn around if you want. You know, it's all you tapping into here and following that intuition, which is, at least in my experience, where God speaks with me. And that's the written word. And I tell this story, you know, when my mom and I agreed that one time, she was kicking me out when I was leaving. I didn't know where to go. My heart's telling me to go to New York City, but I'm in Rochester, New York. I have $60 to my name, an old beat-up car, and my heart's telling me to go to New York City, and my mind's like, that's ridiculous. You don't know anyone, and you only have $60. But my heart just told me to go to New York City. I made this 6-hour drive. I got there at 3 in the morning, had nowhere to go in Manhattan, saw a Chinese restaurant, wasn't hungry, but I had nowhere to go. And literally on the way there, I had a chat with God, and I said, God, I heard about you. You know, if I could get some help, I'd appreciate it. But if I'm meant to die in New York City, I'll die in New York City. If I'm meant to live in this car, I'll live in this car. If I'm meant to live in the streets, I'll live in the streets. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But you know, I'm open to any help that you can pass my way. So I went into that restaurant, ordered some rice because I wasn't hungry. I didn't have any money. We have no rice. What do you mean? It's a Chinese restaurant. We're out of rice. What else do you want? I said, I guess nothing. Went to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, used these facilities, went to my car, fired it up. The first stoplight, I probably could have even ran. It was yellow, but I'm not in a hurry to go nowhere. One person, at 3 in the morning, one person walks in front of my car. I literally rubbed my eyes to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. I rolled the window down. It was a roll window, 83 Volkswagen Rabbit diesel with 250,000 miles. Yell his name. He keeps walking. I yell his name again. He turns and says, "What the F are you doing here?" I said, "What the F are you doing walking the streets at 3 in the morning?" Long story. He's like, "Seriously, where are you going?" I said, "Seriously, nowhere." I said, "What are you talking about? Like, Mom kicked me out and I'm here and I got nowhere to go." Like, "You didn't drive 6 hours and here at 3 in the morning with nowhere to go." I said, "Actually, I did." Once he realized I wasn't bluffing, he said, "Well, I live around the corner. You can stay with me." What? This was my ex-stepfather I hadn't seen in a couple years. He had remarried and was living in Manhattan. There was no rice after a 6-hour drive, and we crossed paths. That's one of the many that I'm sure you can look back and say, there's no way to explain this. That's exactly how, when we follow that intuition, God's plan works out. And even in the times when we can tell stories of the difficult, here's the most difficult situation, everything, every moment, every conversation, everything had God's hand in it. There's no good guy, there's no bad guy, it's God. Follow that intuition and watch how, instead of repressing it, "Oh, I just feel called to turn left. Oh, I want to turn right." Follow the intuition. But there's no wrong, there's no surprises to God. God gets a kick out of us when we're like, God was here on this one. He's like, "I'm there all the time. I'm with you all the time." We got the beach right out back here, and there's that footprints, where you see 2 footprints, mine and someone else's, and then in the roughest times, "Hey God, well, there's only one set of footprints. Where did you go?" "I was carrying you." There's no surprises to God. He gets a kick out of us like, "Oh, God was there when the stepfather crossed in front of the car." No, that's one moment of every moment that I'm there with you. And this hits home for me even mentioning it. It reminds me that there's no ordinary moments. Every moment is a God moment. And we can piece together, well, this moment God left me alone. I was suffering and all this, or this moment, yeah, God was definitely there because there's no way this could happen without God. Well, here's a little secret. God's always there. There's no choice. There's no path that you can go down. Oh man, God wasn't around for that. I missed that one. What happened? Oh, or that situation happened. Oh, well, yeah, I didn't allow that to happen. That was someone else. It's all there. It's all God. It's all good. And as you get better in this, it settles in and you're able to see it from this new lens. And now, that said, there's still emotions. And there's anger, and there's sadness, and there's anxiety, and there's depression, there's fear, but there's also joy, there's also excitement. There's the whole emotional spectrum that when you see and look at the Old Testament and the New Testament as the representation of the Old Covenant, you see it for what it is in a different lens, knowing the New Covenant. And as you settle on this and you go through life, you'll feel the emotions of the bad news, and sometimes it's personal. A close family member or friend or a tragedy occurs, and you feel the sadness. And then you go to God. "Hey God, man, that hurts. Whew, that's a tough one. Oh man, well, I don't know what you have going on with this, but I thank you for it and what I'm meant to learn and experience. I appreciate you knowing me and me knowing you. Thank you." It's tough. We see the news from the New Covenant just like you see the news. And if we thought from the right and wrong, like, man, I just don't think that's right. That just looks bad. And we can go to God. "Hey God, whew, that's a tough one. I don't know what's going on, but you do. So thank you." Man, imagine the peace and rest that comes with that. I've witnessed the peace and rest because it's hard to look at the world. I mean, it's hard to see because I care about people. You care about people. Close family, friends, and strangers. And we see a bus of children on the way to Disney World getting in a car crash and everyone died. Man, that sucks. I don't know what that's about, but God, you do. And it's tough. Like, it's tough to experience those emotions, but it's a peace and rest situation to go to God. That's where the peace and rest comes from.
Buddy, I love listening to you talk, buddy.
Yeah. Well,
Because what?
You opened my eyes to this.
Yeah.
My ears
3 months ago or something?
My ears were ready to hear
That's
this.
pretty cool, man.
Yeah. Well,
I love that.
And there's peace and rest that comes with this. Amidst the chaos. That's the key. Oh, we're talking about sin. Guess what? You're still going to have the pains, the difficulties, and the challenges. But now you're going to be able to say, "Thank you, God. I don't know. Man, I didn't see this one coming. This one kind of hurts, as you know, but thank you."
Yeah, that knowledge of right and wrong belief system needs to pass away. You gotta quit connecting things to yourself. They're not yours. You're not the origin of that thing that just happened. Okay? Listen, we need to hand this life we think is ours over. Who holds our life in his hands? See? So it's his life, not ours.
And when we tap into the living word on our hearts, we become this person who gets to be this joyous creator and witness the world from a new lens. We're still in it, we're still participating in it, but you'll notice you get less anxious, you get less fear, you get less worry, you get less concern, even when it seems like the world's falling apart around you. And people looking at you like, how are you calm, cool, and collected in this? Well, I know who's at the helm, and I'm, knowing what I now know and seeing what I see, I'm feeling called to do this, and that's what I'm going to do. You just become a participant in this adventure.
It's like that phone call we just got from your buddy. I mean, it hurt me to sit there and listen to him.
Yeah.
You
You can feel the pain and the pain on him and his wife and his children. It's terrible. It's hard. We feel it, and we're empathetic to that. Yet,
I felt bad for that guy.
Right.
But he's taken all this on.
Yeah.
And I get it, man. I get it. We live in this knowledge of right and wrong belief system, in this outward appearance, this physical outward appearance world. And so what does God say? He says, well, don't walk by sight and don't judge by outward appearance. Well, what do? We walk by sight and we judge by outward appearance. And what do? We connect everything to ourselves.
Yeah.
We're just convinced.
The narcissism of humanity. Yeah.
We're just convinced of it.
And we try to be the God in the God relationship. Well, God, you apparently are messing this up, so let me step in and be the general manager.
As soon as we start saying this ought not to be, or that didn't have to happen, see, I can remember hearing myself raising my voice a long time ago with that old belief system that was supposed to pass away. And I'd be out there making a law into something, and I look back on that now and I go, wow, I wish I'd have known
what I know now.
What I know, right? So, all I can tell you is those things that you're struggling with, that thing you keep calling sin, that thing that you keep connecting to yourself. The good news, here's some good news. Christ took that sin that you're still believing in, and he took it, and it says he went to the cross and he became sin. He became sin. And he died with it. Okay? And he said, I've come to destroy the works of the devil. Well, he didn't fail. He didn't fail. So all that stuff you're still believing in, Christ took all that and he died with it. So the question is it dead? The Bible says that thing you say you believe in, the scriptures, it said you died to sin. Well, did you or didn't you? Did he finish it or didn't he?
What were his last words?
Yeah, it is finished. So listen, this is about belief. What are we believing in? Are we believing in ourselves? Are we still seeing ourselves as an independent self? Are we going to believe in God? Listen, I can sit here and I can feel guilty about my behavior. And I can sit here and I can see myself as a dirty, rotten sinner. And I can sit here and keep believing in that, and I can believe in what he said. He says, I reconciled you, I justified you, I sanctified you, I perfected you, and I made you holy. Now what's going on here? At some point in time, I got to stop believing in myself and start believing in him. And and listen, regardless of how I see myself, I got to start believing in how he sees me. And that's how he sees me. Now, that's pretty crazy.
Go through those again, how he sees us, because those are important. He sees us as.
He sees us as reconciled. Because he reconciled us to himself. He sees us as justified. Why? Well, because he made us acceptable. He made us sanctified. Why? Well, because he set us apart. That's what sanctification means. And I don't give a crap if teachers out there teaching it as progressive. It's not progressive. He did it once. It's done. And then he says he made us holy.
Whoa. Yeah.
He made us holy. And he perfected us. Now, how many times is he doing that? Over and over and over. What? We still got people running off and asking for some more blood. Well, he says he did it once. There was one sacrifice by the high priest. So what I got to do, I got to stop believing in myself, and I got to start believing in him. Okay? And I know that sounds crazy, but I don't know why. That's what I believe in. So all this is done.
This brings peace and rest.
That's the good news.
This brings peace and rest. This is the true good news.
Yeah.
And it's been rewritten. The old covenant has been fulfilled. The new covenant was entered into with Christ on the cross, and it goes from the written word to the living word on our hearts. The rewiring of our whole DNA, it literally happened in the twinkling of an eye. In that moment, it's now there. Yeah. And we just have to trust in that. And this is just conversation. This is just, Dan had a conversation with me on the morning walk to the beach, and it's interesting. All right, we continue the conversation, and I can say I have more peace and rest. How and why? By seeing it from that lens of the new covenant, and also having the conversations with God. And most importantly, while I'm out in the world, and the world's trying to kick my butt, it feels like Mike Tyson is punching me in the face, and it sucks. And that's when I go to God. I'm like, hey, God, look, this is a rough round. Like, I'm not sure if this is gonna pull through, but I know you got it all covered, so thank you. And man, the peace and rest that comes with that. And then it circles back to, all right, God, what's mine to do now? It's like, okay, going to God and having that connection, you now just know what to say and do. Here we are talking. There's no notes we're referring to. This is all just going in the flow. You become in the flow, and you just be a spreader of joy. And you be this person who, just like the call that we got, the old me in the old covenant, well, that's not right. You need to tell her this. You need to get this. No, hey, it is what it is. What do you think the next steps are? And staying calm, cool, and collected, and not getting all caught up in the emotions and the drama. And that comes with that gives you a different sense of peace and rest. That's it. And there's no fear and worry. It's, you still have those difficulties and challenges. Let's get clear. Like, life is out there. But it's all of a perspective. And from the new lens, it's all God and it's all good. And you have that peace and rest. The old covenant that we talked about earlier, it's like, here you go, strap on this 200-pound backpack and have fun. Try to be, you got to be like Jesus or else you're going to hell. Well, as you said earlier, Jesus kept up in the game. If you see that, you can't even think about that, or you committed that, whoa, crap. I do think about that stuff. I must be terrible, and then he basically said what you said. You think you can, but you can't. The good news is I'm going to do it for you. And thank you. Thank you.
The Bible's really, it's really simple. Whew. It's man saying he can do it, and God saying, no, you can't. Mm-hmm. And listen, I got news for you guys. The churches in the Bible and the disciples, boy, it's just going to be hard. They didn't get the new covenant
at all. They missed that message.
Nothing's changed.
It's actually become more powerful.
Right. Nothing's changed. We don't get it. It's 2019. We don't get the new covenant. And just so you know, by the way, in the new covenant, it said, and I'll remember your iniquities no more. So there's your sin. That thing that you're so concerned about, you're all concerned about, behavior. Well, guess what? It's not your behavior. So
I can hear people, in my mind, in this conversation, say, well, without the law, there's anarchy. Well, guess what? When you see the lens of the new covenant, what's on my heart isn't to go down and start, burning up cars. Like, maybe God has that.
Guys, we're living a physical, outward appearance world, realm. And the world out there, man, is walking around in his right and wrong, good versus evil belief system, which is producing all that stuff out there that has you stirred up. And it's producing all that strife. That belief system that you're holding on to is producing all of that strife. Okay? And so it's like Paul said, I'm in this world, but I'm not of this world. So I'm walking around in this realm of where man's believing in his knowledge of right and wrong. I operate in this physical outward appearance world, but I'm not of it. So when people come to me and tell me stuff, I just kind of look at them. Well, why isn't he going into outer darkness like we are? Why isn't he going down in a ditch with us? Well, because I'm not here.
Temporary.
You got to understand. I'm 62 years old, man. I started learning this stuff when I was 27 years old, man. I mean, you got to understand. This has been settled in me for a long time. So I don't see the world the way you see the world.
It's Saul to Paul. I mean, you transition like Saul to Paul.
Yeah, I don't see the world the way you see the world. It's kind of like the scouts that went over in the land of milk and honey. They came back and, holy crap, there's giants over there. You see? Well, gosh, he gave them the land of milk and honey. Why don't you go get it? See? Well, we're not going to go get it because there are giants over there. Don't you see? Well, holy crap, here we are. Well, don't you get it, Dan? Don't you get it? Don't you get it? Yeah, I don't get it anymore. I'm sorry, I don't get it anymore. Okay? So, listen, this is God's world. And he decides what he wants to do with it. And you can sit here, and try to
fight it and argue it.
We're going to stamp out evil.
It's not part of the plan.
Well, you're not going to stamp out evil with your knowledge of right and wrong belief system.
Well, hey.
That's the opposite of stamping out evil. Okay? So...
Evil's subjective. Evil's back to that everyone has their own interpretation of right and wrong.
So I don't know what God's going to do with us. Maybe he'll have us war. I don't know.
Appears that way.
But listen, it's not wrong. It's just the thing that he wants to do with this. This isn't mine. It never was. So I'm going to trust him in his world.
I know everything has happened perfectly in my world, my life, even though if I were the God in the scenario, I probably wouldn't have written it that way. But how do I know it's perfect? Because it happened.
He used it all. He used it all. And what did he do? He used all of that to bring us to where we are today. Well, where are we? Well, we're sitting here in this belief system that says, you know what? God is all. And if God is all and God is in us, the question is God enough? Yeah.
The answer is, yeah, that's what it is.
And so, listen, when we say that God, we believe in God, it means there's nothing else. And so whatever you're going through,
You feel it, and you feel and see and hear what's happening out there,
So,
and the pain,
yeah.
the suffering.
Whatever you're going through, that's where God is. God's in the pain. He's in the suffering. He's in the dark place. He's in the joy. He's in the everlasting. He's in all of it. He's right there. And so, I'm just saying, I hope you get to start seeing God. Stop getting paralyzed by your right and wrong, good versus evil belief system. Stop seeing yourself as not lovable and not good enough.
You're all those things. Remind them the things that we all are, what God did for us.
You're reconciled, you're justified, you're sanctified. He made you holy and he perfected you. Man, I hope you can get a hold of that.
So we hear it from our friends, from our family. We have it all in our own personal experience, but we go to God, thank you for this. I'm not sure what you're going to do with it, but as my past has shown, you always have something that's waiting for me. So I'm excited to see what that is, and I'm going to trust you to imprint on my heart what is mine to do. And that's why we have that peace and rest. And so we hear you, we feel you, and we hope this is something that opens your eyes to see it from this different lens of the new covenant. So we're going to continue this, and if you have some feedback, leave it below. We'll be seeing that and responding to it, and we have some more plans coming soon to enhance this. So any final words for today?
We love you, buddy.
We love you. Yeah, you're loved. You are loved, and you are worthy of the love. And here it is. Talk with you soon. Make today great.